What's going on, fam?
Hey, Bridging the Gap. It's Cheryl and Roger.
Back at it again. The last video we did, Cheryl wanted me to share some of the educational piece, how the education system is set up. And we're going to kind of go a little bit further in the education piece today because it seems that a lot of you enjoyed that information. And so we're going to touch on that. But before we get into what we're going to talk about today, I want to address something, and I can't remember who made this comment, but thank you. So when I talked last time about the things they teach us in mass, like taxes, and the tax system is actually voluntary according to the Supreme Court, folks, don't stop filing your taxes. That's not what I meant. If you have ever paid taxes, you volunteered, right?
When did they volunteer?
You volunteered. As soon as you filed your first W-4 form and agreed for them to take taxes out of your check, you volunteered into the system. Don't stop paying your taxes. That's not what I'm saying. There's a resolution to that problem, but understand this: tax avoidance and tax evasion are two different things. Mm-hmm. File your taxes, okay? So somebody made that comment, and I thought, you know what? I need to address that because I ain't trying to have none of y'all go to jail because you misunderstood what I said. But they've indoctrinated us into this system to do what they've taught us to do. And we don't know no different. We don't know no better. We can't teach our children how to avoid it because we don't know. Mm-hmm. You're already in it. If you want to get out, we can deal with that later down the road when the time comes. But as for now, as an employee of any company, please file your taxes. All right. Is there anything else we need before we get into today?
No.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about school last time, the educational system, and the lies they tell us and the lies we believe. So this time we want to get into the truths that they don't talk about. Okay, so Cheryl wanted me to share with you guys a story that I share with people, fairly regularly, that was an eye opener for me. When I was in the Bay Area in the mortgage business, I lived on the 680 corridor, which is white suburbia, and there was a handful of us brothers out there who were in business, and we met once a month on a Saturday to kind of talk about how we make our presence known as business people, how do we deal with things and make sure people understand we're not about to be profiled out here, just different topics that related to us as a very small Black community in white suburbia, right? So one Saturday we had this cat coming out from Oakland. Everybody knows where Oakland at. We're on the other side of the hill from Oakland, where there ain't a whole lot of us out there, right? So this brother shows up, and the first thing he says after his little greeting and whatnot, he says, I was on the train. He's riding the BART. I was on the BART out here, and I was thinking as I was looking out the window, I'm about to go back to the hood. We looked at each other like, the hood, bro? You coming from Oakland, right? And he said, I know, I see the looks on your faces, and clearly all of y'all confused by what I'm saying, but that's because you don't know what you don't know. He says, what you don't know is all of this land in East Contra Costa, from Pleasanton all the way up to Walnut Creek, Moraga, and Lafayette, all of that was originally owned by a Black man. And we all looked at each other like, what? I mean, this is well-to-do white suburbia, and there's very few of us there, but the land was originally owned by a Black man. And he told us the story about this Black man and how they took this land from him. So he said, yeah, when I was on the train, I was on my way here, I'm thinking, it's good to be going back to the hood. And we were like, wow. He said, why did I tell y'all that? He said, does that matter today? No, it doesn't really matter today, but what I need you to see is where I'm going with this conversation, because he was there to talk about the education system. And what this young brother was doing was trying to get curriculums into the educational system that would benefit our children, right? He was saying to us that the reason our kids are failing in school or struggling in school is not because they're not educated. It's not because, they can't succeed in that environment. It's none of that. It's the fact that they're not interested, because nothing in the system relates to them. It's not relevant. And so when you see all that you see in the school system, and you don't hear anything about anybody that looks like you that did anything, then you have your experiences in your current environment that show you that most people look like you don't do much of anything. You know, if you're coming from the inner city, you see a lot of stuff that you know, taints your mind as a young child. And when you're learning about the major things and the positive things that are taking place in the world, it's always somebody who doesn't look like you. Mm-hmm. So he told us about a couple of things. He said that he got into the school system in Oakland, and they allowed him to take some kids in some communities and just walk them literally outside the school or outside their homes and show them all of the things in their neighborhood that were significant, that were done by people that looked like them, that they had no idea. He's talking to us as a group of grown men, businessmen. We had no idea. But he caught these kids' attention just like that by talking to them about things in their neighborhood that were done by people that looked like them that mattered, right? So he moved from Northern California and Oakland to Southern California. He actually had a school district that allowed him to teach a curriculum for 1 year to a group of 12-year-old kids, all of whom were failing. So he had one classroom of failing kids that were 12 years old, I think they're sixth grade, that they said, you have to teach the regular curriculum, but you can add an element to the curriculum of just Black history. Not history. We're going to make him teach regular history, but to teach them Black history, teach them things that were relevant to them, right? Long story short, they agreed to allow him to do this, and then they had a separate project they were going to do where they were going to develop a business plan over the course of this school year, and then they were going to present that business plan to somebody at the end of the school year to see how it would be viewed in the business world, right? So long story short, these kids who are all getting D's and F's, flunking out of school, ended this 12-month period, every one of them was straight A students, not a single B. Every one of them was straight A students. Didn't change any of the curriculum that was already there, just added things like we're going to share with you today, added these types of things to the curriculum, and it gave them a sense of pride. It gave them something relevant to hold on to say, look, if people who look like me can do those things and that mattered so much to the world, then I can do something that can matter to the world. So all of these kids got straight A's, every one of them. Then at the end of the year, they took this business plan and presented it to a Fortune 500 CEO. Didn't tell the CEO where the business plan came from. CEO loved the business plan, wanted to implement the business plan, and was willing to fund the business plan. 1 year, not even a full year, 9 months, a school year, turned these kids completely around and had them presenting something in an arena that they could never see themselves even pretending to play in, with people ready to give them money for their idea. It's insane how oppressive the education system is if you're Black and American. And with that, we want to take some time today. We say all this to say this, that they've been telling our story for hundreds and thousands of years, and we have to stop allowing that to happen. We have to tell our story, because nobody's going to tell it the way it should be told, and that's been proven over time. We have Black History Month. I'm going to guess that none of the stuff that we're going to talk about today you've ever heard in Black History Month. In terms of people who have done great things that I can remember in Black History Month is Eli Whitney and the Cotton Gin. Seriously, I don't think I ever heard of anything else that Black people did in all of Black History Month and all of my years in school. Can you think of anything?
I didn't even hear that one. All we talked about was Martin Luther King and
maybe Rosa Parks.
Yeah, Rosa Parks. That was pretty much it. Yeah, we got to take control back of our own story.
So let's start telling our story. Let's take a quick, simple look at what Google already knows about our story and some powerful stuff that people who look like us have done. And then you got to ask yourself, why is that not in history books? Let alone, I mean, at least in Black History Month, if you're going to give us 30 days, do some justice to it, right? They're not trying to do justice to it, because the last thing they want, the very last thing they want, is a bunch of young Black children engaged here, fully engaged and excited about learning. Because what this young man did with this classroom is what would happen all over the country. They can't have that.
And it would interrupt their presentation of us, because there is a presentation of us in the media, in the movies, in the music. They have a certain way.
It's an image.
An image that, you know, they use to portray us. And so, did I say the right word? Portray us. So like I said something else. And so, you know, that's the image that most people who don't associate with Black people on the regular, don't really know Black people. The only image they have is what they see on TV, or what they see in the movie, or what they hear in the music. And so if that's all they hear about us, then it's, you know, it's reasonable to understand why some people feel about Black people what they feel.
Two things on that.
Because they don't know the truth.
They don't know the truth, but guys, sadly enough, we believe a lot of it.
We do believe a lot of it.
We believe the narrative about us.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy how we can look at one another and apply the stereotypes that they've put on us.
Yes.
And you're not alone. I've done it.
Yeah.
And in my younger years, it was more often because, you know, I wasn't conscious enough to know that I was applying those stereotypes to my own. Right?
We automatically distrust one of us.
But that was by design.
Yeah.
That was by design. Matter of fact, let's take it all the way back. Back to the Willie Lynch letters. In the Willie Lynch letters, he made it clear that you had to create divisions. You had to divide dark skin, light skin. You had to separate families, separate children, house niggas, field niggas. You had to create a division amongst us so we would not unite. Because if we ever united, I mean, there were plenty of rebellions that they caused problems. If it ever happened on a mass scale, there was way more slaves than there was plantation owners. So they had to not only separate us from them and create this superior, inferior complex, they also had to separate us within to keep us from actually coming together and working together and, you know, doing things like Black Wall Street, so then they would have to destroy it.
Within and across the water too, because
absolutely
you can't have
here and on the continent.
You can't have us come together.
They can't have the continent and the diaspora come together, which is why the narratives and the things. I was talking to somebody, oh man, today or yesterday, who was saying the same things about the continent of Africa and the things they thought about the continent until they went there, and it was just mind-boggling for them to say, these people really, they care about us. They recognize us as family and they long for us. And we don't know that, and they don't ever want us to know that. Which is why I say everybody, and I do mean everybody, under the sound of my voice, if you can get to the continent, you have to get there at least once in your lifetime. You have to get there. But the second thing I want to say to what you were saying, baby, in this narrative is in what they believe. I went to school in Utah. I went to college in Utah. At that time, Utah, the whole state was less than 1% Black. Okay? Yeah. All they knew was what they saw on TV. Literally all they knew. And they were either like, you know, enamored and like, you know, like you were this mythical creature as a Black person, or they were fearful beyond belief. So first couple of days I'm there, I'm there on a football scholarship. Me and some of the boys are at the dining hall eating, and we're walking back to the dorms. And me and my roommate are walking ahead of about 10 brothers behind us, and they're talking loud, laughing, joking, you know, whatever. This gentleman was walking towards us with his wife and his 2 kids. And they were just ho-hum, happy-go-lucky. And then he heard the group of brothers behind us, and I'm listening to my roommate Damon talking to me, and I'm looking at this couple coming at us. And it's like he heard us, heard them actually, looked up, swelled up, and stepped over in front of his kids like he was gonna have to fight for their life. Out in the open, in the daylight, on a college campus. I'm looking at this, Damon's talking to me, I'm looking at this fool pass us and like, what was that? What was that? He said, man, don't worry about it, you get used to it. I'm like, I will never get used to that. But that was the mindset, because all they know is the narrative they've been presented. And there's a lot of people out here who function just off what they see on TV and how they portray us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this dude was literally scared for, I'm like, first of all, what are you gonna do? There's about 15 of us and you weigh about $150 soaking wet. How you gonna swell up and poke your chest? I just want you, boom! You know, what are you doing? But I can't be mad at him because he's been indoctrinated through the narrative, the system, the education system in particularly, and media. They paint us in a light that's crazy. So tonight, right here, we're gonna start to tell our story. We're telling a historical story of what happened to us. Now we're gonna start to tell the story about what we've done for them, for everybody. Because the things we're going to share with you benefited everybody, not just us. But how can it benefit the whole world and you not tell us anything about us who brought that to the world? Mm-hmm. So we're going to start to change that a little bit and start talking about what they want. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about things that Black people have done that we're never taught about. Here's how simple this is, guys. I Googled this page. Now, we did this way on purpose. I want you to see the first 2 links that pop up on Google. 14 Black inventors you probably don't know about. 9 Black inventors who made daily life easier. And it says history. Why don't we learn these things in history? We spend 12 years minimum in school learning history the way they want to teach it. We're going to take a few minutes and focus on a handful of people that we've never heard of so we can learn more of our history.
Go to this.
Yeah. At least I think we are. Okay. All right. So we're not going to read all of this, but I'm going to read a good portion of these people's bios so we can understand who they are and what they brought to us. So this says 14 Black inventors you probably didn't know about. It says many people have read the story of how George Washington Carver invented peanut butter. I don't think they teach that in school. Others are familiar with stories of Sarah Breedlove, AKA Madam C.J. Walker, the inventor of beauty products, feminine products, and the first woman to become a self-made millionaire. Not the first Black woman, the first woman in America to become a self-made millionaire was Black. How significant do you think that will be to little girls in school to learn that fact? And thanks to the Academy Award nominated film, we know about the women of Hidden Figures and their contributions to NASA and the space program. It goes on to say, but did you know that many of the products we use every day were created by Black people? Here's a list of 14 of them until now you probably didn't know about. Dr. Shirley Jackson, theoretical physicist. Dr. Shirley Jackson is an American physicist who received her PhD from MIT in 1973. She was the first African-American woman to earn a doctorate under the nuclear physics program at MIT. It says, in addition, her lengthy list of academic achievements, she also has an impressive number of inventions under her belt. Her experiments with theoretical physics paved the way for numerous development in the telecommunications space, including touch-tone phones, portable faxes, caller ID, call waiting, and the fiber optic cable, things that we use every single day today. And this lady is still here and we don't learn about her. It says from 1946 to present, and we learn nothing about her. Lewis Latimer, inventor and engineer Lewis Latimer was born in Chelsea, Massachusetts on September 4th, 1948. He collaborated with science greats Hiram Maxim and Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison is another name we know. Yeah. One of Latimer's greatest inventions was the carbon filament, a vital component of the light bulb. His inventions didn't stop here. Working with Alexander Graham Bell, another name we learn about in history books, Latimer helped to draft the patent for Bell's design of the telephone. How many of you know who that was? I never knew who that was until today. Marie Van Britton Brown, 1922 to 1999. Did you know that the first home security system, those systems that protect your house today, the first one was invented by a Black nurse, Marie Van Britton Brown. Although she was a full-time nurse, as a full-time nurse, she recognized the security threats to her home and devised a system that would alert her of strangers at her door and contact relevant authorities as quick as possible. A woman with a full-time job created the systems that protect your house today. Otis Boykin, 1920 to 1982. Otis Boykin's most notable contribution to science was likely the circuit improvements he made to pacemakers. After losing his mother to heart failure, a contribution that has saved countless lives since, but the single improvement was among a long list of achievements. Boykin had 26 patents in his name and is famed for the development of the IBM computer. Time out. IBM computers. He developed the patent for IBM computers was us. Why is that not in the history book? Why is that not talked about at all?
Wait, did you see the burglar-proof cash register?
Let's see.
Was that electric razor? Oh, electroresistor. Electronic resistor used in controlled missiles and other devices.
Yeah, I got lost at IBM. I ain't gonna lie. So IBM computers, burglar-proof cash registers, chemical air filters, and an electronic resistor used to control missiles, government, and other devices. Don't know nothing about the cat. Lonnie G Johnson, aerospace engineer, still with us, 1949 to present. Did you ever enjoy water gun fights? This one had me messed up. We'll meet Lonnie Johnson, the man that gave us the most famous water gun, the Super Soaker. Lonnie wasn't a toy maker. He was actually an aerospace engineer for NASA with a resume boasting a stint with the US Air Force, work on the Galileo Jupiter probe and Mars Observer projects, and more than 40 patents. Yes, he is also working on the Johnson thermoelectric energy converter, which converts heat directly into electricity. And that is currently, he's doing that. But it's a squirt gun that made him famous and brought us the most joy. Charles Drew, physician and medical researcher. Every 2 seconds in the US, someone needs blood, a blood transfusion. Thanks to Charles Drew, that blood is available. Drew was a physician, surgeon, and medical researcher who worked with a team at Red Cross on groundbreaking discoveries around blood transfusion. In World War II, he played a major role in developing the first large-scale blood banks and blood plasma programs. Never heard of him. Marion R. Croak. In 2013, again, recent, current times. In 2013, Marion Croak was inducted into Women in Technology International Hall of Fame, a move that recognizes her remarkable achievements in tech. Croak holds over 135, primarily in voice over internet protocol, VoIP systems, telephone systems, some in other areas. Then it goes on to say she has another 100 patents currently under review. That's a 235 if she gets those. Lisa, I struggle with this one. Galopter is what I'm going to say her name is. If you ever enjoyed an animated GIF on the web, like this one, amazing kitten being scared by an iguana, then you have Lisa to thank. So we've all been on the internet and seen GIFs. This is a live iguana scaring a cat. She created these. How many of us knew that? Yeah, we're gonna scroll. We'll go to the next one. Philip Imigwale. Now this one was impressive. Due to cost, Philip Emeagwali was forced to drop out of school at age 14, but this didn't stop him from becoming one of the greatest computer pioneers of our time. In fact, he's often called the Bill Gates of Africa. As an adult, Emeagwali began studying nature, specifically bees. The construction of the honeycomb inspired him to rethink computer processing. In 1989, he put this idea to work using 65,000 processes to invent the world's first supercomputer, able to perform 3.1 billion calculations per second. Brother from the continent that you will never hear about in schools. Jesse Ernest Wilkins, 1923 to 2001. Jesse Ernest Wilkins Jr. is one of America's most important contemporary mathematicians. At 13, he became the University of Chicago's youngest student. Wilkins continued his studies there, earning a bachelor's, master's, and eventually earning his doctorate degree in mathematics at the age of 19. He's published papers in mathematics, optics, nuclear engineering. As a mathematician for the American Optical Company in Buffalo, New York, he perfected the lens design for microscopes and ophthalmological uses. Elijah McCoy, I think this one shocked me more than any of them. Often regarded as the most famous, one of the most famous Black inventors ever, McCoy was credited for 50 inventions over the span of his career. In an effort to improve efficiency and eliminate frequent stopping necessary for lubrication of trains, McCoy devised a method automating the task. In 1872, he developed a lubricating cup that automatically dripped oil when and where needed, vital in avoiding sticking to the track. The lubricating cup met with the enormous success, and orders for it came from railroad companies all over the country. Check this out. It was so popular that when other inventors attempted to steal his idea and sell their own versions of the device, companies were not fooled. They insisted on the authentic device, calling it the real McCoy. How many times have you heard that phrase? The real McCoy. Had no idea it was related to us. Garrett Morgan, 1877 to 1963. Those who survived either World War II, either of the world wars, thanks to a gas mask, have Garrett Morgan to thank. Morgan first created the safety hood to help firefighters navigate smoky buildings, later modifying it to carry its own air supply, making it the world's first effective gas mask. Mary and Mildred Davison. Mary and her sister Mildred patented many practical inventions. They didn't have technical education. They were both exceptional at spotting ways to make people's lives better. Together, they invented the sanitary belt. Later, Mary invented the moisture-resistant pocket for the belt. While disabled from multiple sclerosis, Mary went on to invent the walker and the toilet tissue holder.
Now, who knew?
Come on, man. Come on. It's right there on Google.
Is that the last one? Yeah.
That's the last one on that page. It's right there on Google. Why is it that we can't get this kind of information about things that we've done that are so important in this country and around the world?
You mean get it in the education system?
Well, anywhere. Why is it not?
It's on Google, but you gotta go search for it.
Why is it not taught in any controlled setting where information is shared? Why is that information not shared?
Yeah, we kind of talked about that.
It's by design.
Yeah.
It ain't no accident, but it needs to be discussed, and we need to be the one to share it. Now, we're gonna talk about some young folks and some people currently that are doing things that it's in the media, but it's not getting near the attention it should be getting.
Right.
Can you kick that over?
Yeah. So what I'm going to share are some of the things with people, specifically, not all of them are young people, but some of them are young people. And what I typically do, and what I would suggest or encourage others to do is when you see these good news articles about people that look like you, is to share them wherever you can share them, because that's the only way we're going to take control of our own narrative, is that we share the stories, we share the good news. So I put them all on my social media when I can. When I see something, I share it. And so that's what I'm going to show you now, some of the ones that I've shared recently.
And it's got to be a mass effort. We're trying to get this started, but folks, everybody needs to share this information with everybody you know. And they need to share it with everybody they know. We have to reclaim the narrative of who we are.
Right. We can't be just what they say we are. Okay, now this first one isn't current, but I saw it and I did share it on my page recently because I hadn't heard about this, and I don't know if you heard about this. So this gentleman and his son invented the first cars. Actually, it talks about, let's see, before the advent of automobiles, many in the modern world used horse carriages. By the 1700s and 1800s, these horse-drawn carriages came in all forms and designs. Many people do not know that a formerly enslaved Black man named Charles Richard Patterson from Ohio in America manufactured horse-drawn carriages in the 1800s, and his son later manufactured the car in the early 1900s. So we all hear about Ford, but we don't hear about Patterson. Here's a young man who I recently saw this article pop up. He is an author, and in his books, I guess some of the words were too big for the kids to grasp. So he decided to create an app that read his stories and to help these kids learn from his books. So he created his own apps, 8 years old.
So the kids and the parents were having a hard time understanding this young man.
Yeah. Now, hey, he helped them out though with an app. And look at these young men, because if you saw them walking down the street, you wouldn't necessarily think that they've launched their own bottled water brand.
Stereotypes is the first thing you look at.
Yeah. So they're from Baltimore. They started out cleaning windshields on the corner, and they called their water company Corner Boys Water. This young lady, I believe she's from near my hometown, but she has a plant-based beauty brand, and I believe it's hair products for natural hair texture, and she's being sold in Target now.
And that's huge.
That's huge. Here's another young lady with something notable. First Black valedictorian in Texas, in this particular school.
That's a boasts a 6.9 GPA.
Yeah.
How you get?
I don't know. When I was in school, they had
right. It was 4.
But I think when they take the AP classes and all these extra college credit courses,
the girl got brains hanging out her ears. 6.9.
Yeah. This young man created his own nonprofit, published 3 books, and he won $10,000 from a Young Hero Award. Wow. Yeah. So some of this stuff gets in the news, but it's not widespread. It's not spread as easily as the bad news.
Right.
Here's a Nigerian woman who she's created a cancer treatment using plants. Here's another young man. He's the highest paid robotics engineer in the world. And I believe he's Nigerian as well.
Yeah.
26 years old. These young ladies from Ghana, they created, they're making paper out of banana and plantain to help the environment. How creative is that?
How significant is that?
Right. Now, this young man created a straw that filters lead out of water. And it's in Walmart. He's got a deal with Walmart.
Huge.
That's real huge.
Crazy.
Here's a 14-year-old. He just started this past year in college at 14 years old. So don't tell us our kids aren't smart.
Come on.
Here's a young lady with her own barbecue sauce.
15 years old.
And then this is the last one that I'm sharing. After 130 years, Harvard Law Review elects a Black woman president. So there's a lot out there that we're doing. I mean, that's a small portion. That's not everything. That's not all the notable things that Black people are doing.
So we just shared with you things. Most of that has been what Cheryl's been getting in her news feed on Facebook. And I just did a Google search. That is by no means exhaustive. That's just a snippet of the things that have gone on in the past and the things that are going on presently that are significant to everybody walking around out here. We're not even
outside of entertainment, the entertainment industry, because we see a lot of that. And that's all good, okay? You know, it's not sports, it's not entertainment. There are other things that we can do. We're not just entertainers.
And in that list, it didn't even miss some of the other things that I've learned that never got out of school, like, you know, the stoplight. That's us. First open heart surgery. That was a Black man that did that. There's so many things that have been done that we did first that nobody will tell us about.
Or they're taking credit for.
And I think, I mean, obviously they want to indoctrinate us to believe certain things about us. But I think the biggest piece was what we shared at the beginning of this. If our young folks knew, if they only knew how significant people who look like them have been to the entire world
and are
currently contributing to society globally. If they knew these things, it would bring hope. It will give them a belief. It will make them feel relevant, even in spite of whatever circumstances they may be growing up in. It will give them something. But even in that community, what that brother did, taking these kids right outside their school and pointing to all these different things right around you. Even in the hood, there's things of significance that people who look like you have done. 1 year, a bunch of failing kids turned everything around drastically and had a multi-million-dollar opportunity in front of them. I don't know whatever happened with that. This brother only came out one time and they were still in talks with the CEO. But the fact that this CEO who did not know was interested and ready to throw money behind it says it all. What goes in? Rockefeller said the ability to deal with people is as purchasable as any other commodity. And I'll pay more for that than I will pay for anything else under the sun. This is what they're doing to us. They're dealing with us. In the story, they tell us about us and everybody else about us, but it's not just us. It is not just us. They deal with everybody who's not on their level to that same education system. I promise you, they got them just as indoctrinated as we are. They just don't know it. And I hate to say this publicly, but I'm going to say it publicly. A lot of these people out here who are supporting this man in this office right now don't understand that to him, he's nothing. You are nothing but a light-skinned nigga. And that's real. And if you look at your circumstances, you will see they're not far off than ours. That little bit of privilege you have has you supporting a man that can't stand you. He's not there for you. And the tax cuts that he implemented prove that. The majority of your taxes went up while billionaires are paying nothing or next to nothing. And you support this man. He's not there for you either. Remember what I said in the beginning. This is about control, power, and energy. They want your energy. They need you to work in their businesses to line their pockets. That's what slavery was. They didn't want to do the work. They still don't want to do the work, but they're using the W-2 system, the prison industrial complex, whatever means they can to get your energy. And as long as they can keep you thinking that they're on your side, it don't really matter what color you are. The black and white thing that we've been talking about, we're going to get into why it's more significant with us than it is them, but it applies to all of you. If you're not on that level, they're looking down on you. They need to control you because they need workers, not competition. I think it was Rockefeller said that competition is a sin. They won't have it. And I'm going to say this, we're going to wrap this up. We mentioned how Europe came together and broke up the continent of Africa. by resources, not by people that were there, but by resources. Okay, France needs this, Germany needs this, Britain needs this. Why? Because they didn't want to fight each other. They didn't want to compete. So this is what you need, you have that. This is what I need, I have that. We're not going to compete. We're going to take advantage of everything and everybody else. It's nothing new under the sun. Nothing's changed. So it's sad to see those disenfranchised white folks who don't get that you really are a light-skinned nigga to them. Really, I don't know how else to put it. That's what you are to them. They make it clear to us. I feel almost worse for them because they don't know. We know. We just need to understand what it's going to take to change our mindset. Sad thing is, they don't even know they have a mindset to change, but we're on the path to changing ours. And that's what this channel is for. So I know you're looking at me crazy for using that kind of terminology, but it is what it is to them. I'm not saying I use those words, but I promise you, that's how they look at everybody that's not on their level. Anything else, babe? Did I do too much?
Yeah. But I also want to say we're on the bottom of the bottom level.
Oh yeah,
them. So
no doubt.
It's still not equal.
No. If it was equal, they wouldn't be teaching any kind of history about anybody. They'll teach us about them and give us a little bit of us. And feel like Eli Whitney, somebody special, all by himself. They don't want us to know.
Mm-hmm. Too late. We're going to know.
It was too late. We're going to know. And what I just told you about these kids should be the light bulb moment, man. If we can get to our children with things that make them feel relevant, they'll take an interest and they will thrive.
We can
always have.
And once we know this, we can no longer just leave it into the hands of the school system to teach them, because they're not going to teach them. They're not going to teach them.
Look, the one thing I had coming up was a father who was so focused on education that it was almost painful. But he taught me to be a critical thinker and think outside the box. As much as he taught me to be a critical thinker, they still had me caught up in what they wanted me to think. Mm-hmm. So when I was in college, my first year at Utah State, I had a white professor, Professor Ross, who taught a Black history class. And it was in that class for the first time I had a teacher who spoke truth. And he said, in talking about the discovery of America, how do you discover something when there's 1 million people, 1 million plus people there? And that hit me, and that started me on this path to where I am today. I don't like to be lied to. And it angers me when I realize I've been lied to, I didn't catch it. So I refuse to let anybody around me walk around in the dark. And that's part of what we're doing now. We got to wake up. It is time to wake up. Enough is enough. So I can go off on a tangent on this for days. And my wife said I already did too much. So I'm going to go ahead and hush up. You want to finish this up? Are we done? What's going on?
Are we done?
I don't know.
We finished?
I don't know. I'm in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. We're done.
Y'all pray for a brother. I'm in trouble.
All right, Bridging the Gap. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.